Welcome back to Shadowboxing. My guest is Kevin Morgan. Kevin, can you tell us something about the Robson report? How the Robson report is trying to cover the government's actions to develop the super councils?
Well, the Robson report was told what the answer was when it was given its terms of reference. It was told that it had to reduce the number of councils. So the fact that it's come up with a recommendation to reduce the number of councils is neither here nor there, because it was told it had to do that anyway. And
that's very clever.
Well, to some people it is. It's really quite sad that the mainstream media doesn't pick up on it. I suppose even the real ramifications of that is, in order to abolish councils, it's a very expensive process.
It's a long process as well, legally speaking?
It should be a long process if you want to do it quite cheaply. But if you would want to do it in a big bang approach, as Robson recommends, and as its terms of reference said basically had to be the outcome, it is going to be a very expensive process to instantaneously abolish 100-year plus democracies and all the administration that goes with it, and to replace it with a larger government administration, new electoral boundaries, whole new communities who are suddenly lobbed in together. That's going to have major ramifications, but most of those costs are going to be borne at the community level.
Yes.
But the financial cost is going to be quite huge as you try to bring in various IT systems and all types of systems and trying to merge them into one.
So it looks like quite the opposite with the effect as what the government say. The government say it's going to be cheaper, quicker, more responsive, and more representation will be given for the people.
Colin Barnett's the only one that says it's going to be cheaper. Even Robson says it's going to be more expensive.
So what do you think, what motivates Colin Barnett in that action? Why he want to do that desperately?
Well, look, Colin Barnett was the architect of the splitting up of the old city of Perth. And
when was that?
Oh, that was in the early to mid 90s, and in the mid to late 80s, Colin, as the then worker for the business lobby group, had put forward a proposal to split the city of Perth in order to ensure that the pro-Liberal candidates in the CBD were no longer outnumbered by their Labor councillors in the suburbs. And he did this by basically making the CBD a council in its own right as the city of Perth, and his plan hived off the suburban parts of the old city of Perth into new councils such as Victoria Park, Vincent, Cambridge, etc.
Okay, now he wants to put them together again back. Why is that?
Well,
tell me.
Because the upshot of that splitting up of the city of Perth was that the Liberal government that then implemented that splitting up of the city of Perth was able to plunder a huge amount of community assets that were held in that old city of Perth. And now, obviously, Colin's no fool, and he can see that if he can do the same thing on a metro-wide scale and abolish existing councils across the whole metro area, the opportunity of plunder is enormous. And when you've got a $20 billion state debt, I can see why it is imperative for him to be able to pursue this course of abolishing councils.
So he's doing it for a reason, to earn money for the state, to fill the holes what they digged.
That's right. I mean, somehow or another, in the last 4 years, Colin's managed to rack up, $20 billion of debt for us after starting off from $3 billion. So that's an awful lot of money, and each of us is now owing a lot more money. And many of us may say, well, that's great that he's going to reduce that debt. But when they look out their front door and find that he's taken parklands and other things off them in order to do so,
to developers,
That's
reserve
right.
areas.
Well,
Yes.
that's right, and they'll be very disappointed when they find out that his plans to reduce this state debt is going to come out of their own community assets.
So that's very clever. So Colin Barnett is not fool.
Well, it is clever to some, but I don't find it at all meets the task that he was entrusted with. And that task was to govern for all of us, not just to govern for those who fund his election campaign.
How can govern for all of us when he represents the liberals and he have to follow the Liberal Party's line, not the electorate line? How can he make, all the best for everyone? He is not an independent in Parliament. He's belong to a party.
The difficulty with the party system, I suppose, is that your local member might not be acting for your interests because they are subject to the centralised party control. And
so who they are working for? For the party, for the people, or the combination of that, or just a tick?
I think you just have to go back to who is funding them. And when you look at who funds our major political parties, both Labor and Liberal chase the same corporate electoral donations. They're basically supping from the same cup. And as a result, it's no surprise that on the basis that he who pays the piper gets to call the tune, that most of our political parties are very much based upon coming up with policies that suit those business interests rather than policies that actually suit the electorate and the communities that they're meant to represent.
Stop in here, Kevin, stop for a second. I mean, if this is true what you're saying, then where is democracy in the 21st century?
Well, democracy, I suppose, the public gets what the public wants, and unless the public wake up and start to look after themselves, they are going to go on a far worse ride than they've been on to date. I mean, Mr. Barnett is not going to be seeking re-election in 2017. He's going to be unbridled and unrestrained altogether through the next 4 years. I mean, you can see it with the stripping local governments of their independence rather than put it up as a mandate for the next election. He's in fact going to do the opposite and just bury it under the ground for a while until the election's been held. And then he's going to hop up and basically do what you should never do until your democracy has said you should do it. And I'm very concerned as to where we're going to end up once we lose that community voice, because I think our democracy works well when there's a bit of a tension between local government and state government. That tension does breed a contest of ideas. Well,
in the local government of Cottesloe and the state government, it's an attention, always in the past 7-10 years.
Well, in fact, there hasn't been a big tension there. I mean, I've never even got one justification out of the state government as to why they're overriding the Cottesloe Council's low-rise beachfront plan, which was developed by their own experts. I mean, many years ago, that whole issue was put out and taken out of council's hands, and both the state and the local government decided they would abide by a decision of a panel of experts, most of them being the state government experts.
And this is the new panel. What's the name?
The Inquiry by Design panel. And now we went through that process, and the panel came up and basically recognised that the community was right, and that Cottesloe beachfront is one of the few beachfronts that actually is very deserving of low rise, and that diversity that we need in the metropolitan area would have been enhanced through it. But instead, the state government has overridden that outcome, and for the last 4 years actually 6 years now, has been stalling the new plans, and then turns around at the end of that 6 years and says they're sick of the delay, their own delay, and uses that as the justification for pushing ahead contrary to what the experts in the community want. Mainstream media don't pick up on it. They've got 400 spin doctors. Cottesloe's got me.
No, you got more than you. You got the people in Cottesloe who want to hear their own voice.
Oh, look, that's where Colin's danger is that everyone outside the electorate only gets to find out about these issues through mainstream media. So he may have, I suppose, hoodwinked most of WA, but most of the locals in Cottesloe know exactly what's going on, and that, I suppose, is his biggest danger come 9th of March, Independence Day.
On that note, people say that Kevin Morgan has got only one political goal: to decapitate the body of the West Australian Liberal Party. What's happening if you cut the head off? How the party will survive?
Oh, look, Colin Barnett was an accidental premier in the first place. He was very belatedly put in the position and got there through a hung parliament and the support of independents. What I hope to do is to make the Liberal Party of WA sit up and take notice that the head of their party has been removed at the local level, and to make them realise that they have to reintegrate their party into the community. At the moment, I don't know, I suspect there's 20 or 30 people at the local branch meeting, and they're basically controlling what's going down. I have that many at my local council meeting. In fact, I have hundreds more when it comes to these issues.
Yes.
And what the parties need to learn is to reintegrate their policy making back into the community and take it away from the corporations and unions that aren't even entitled to vote in the first place.
Kevin, it was very nice to listen to you and to find out what you think about politics and life. But just one last question. Could you tell us something about yourself? What are you doing when you are not the mayor of Cottesloe, or you're not fighting for the seat in Parliament?
Well, my main occupation, I suppose, is the shared raising of a 5 and a 7-year-old for the last 5 years as a single father. That takes up most of my time. Most of my week spent running around after the children. Apart from that, I try to squeeze in some income producing activities, being a commercial litigator. And my, I suppose, enjoyment is the beach, sport, golf, having a relaxed lifestyle.
Kevin, thank you. It was great to have you here on Shadowboxing, and we wish you the best for your gigantic fight for the seat of Cottesloe. And thank you for watching Shadowboxing. See you next week with a new episode of Shadowboxing.